Hey guys, I'm gonna go over the patch 6.9 notes. There's a lot of mid-year mage update stuff, item changes, a few champion balancing, some jungle changes, yeah, and all this stuff is on here. But we'll just go over it. I won't do skins and things like that, obviously, or bug fixes because those are minor. Yeah, no, they don't really affect gameplay balance or how the game functions that much. Um, Okay, so first of all, welcome to mid-season. Okay, Vladimir. A couple things here. He's getting some base stat changes. His early game is not really any different. It's honestly not that big of a change. It's like a few tweaks here and there. His passive change is bigger though. He gets twice the amount of health or ability power for health, almost twice that he normally would before. 1 per 40 ability power to 1 per 25, or 1 ability power per 40 bonus health to 1 ability power per 25. That allows, that means items like Spirit Visage are that much more useful on him, give him more AP too, and you can see here the converse, the ability power to bonus health is less. Transfusion change. So normally before transfusion was just point and click spell, healed you for a flat amount, and then did some damage. And so now the first two casts are going to be weaker, and then after the second cast, Vladimir gains Crimson Rush, which basically gives him some movement speed and deals double damage and heals for even more. That's pretty strong. It makes his trading windows a lot more. It makes his early game definitely weaker because if he's healing less and doing less damage early, he is already getting out traded in the top lane by several bruisers. So his early game is a little bit weaker, but I'd have to see how much damage this actually does. Yeah. Healing looks like the flat amount is unchanged. The healing ratio is reduced to compensate for the Crimson Rush bonus, and the AP ratio is also gutted. I'm assuming that's because of these changes over here. The cooldown is less, which is nice. Definitely helps his early game. Damage is way less though, so we'll see. We'll see. Sanguine Pool, damage ratio straight gutted. Again, this is probably because of the changes up here. Tides of Blood, completely different spell now. You charge it and it does bonus damage based on your percent max HP, or it costs a different amount of percent max HP rather. Sorry, and then increasing damage over time based on charge. And oh yeah, it does have a max health ratio. Okay, interesting. 1 per 10 max health. That's actually a lot of damage. If you imagine a 3k HP Vladimir, that's 300 damage plus, let's say you have, I don't know, 500 AP. That's not anything too crazy. The 650 damage spell and an AoE, that's pretty nice. Fairly short cooldown late game, pretty spammable. Yeah, it's a pretty strong spell actually. I heard that because it's a missile, it can be blocked by minions and things like that, so I'm not 100% sure. But, yeah. Hemoplague, I don't think it's changed that much. Damage amp reduced, duration reduced, and... Okay, so now you get a healing on it, and there's an AP ratio on that as well. Okay, that's pretty nice, actually. Makes Vlad that much more powerful in team fights, makes him a bit more tanky in team fights, so... I don't know. I can't say for sure how strong Vlad is after the changes. His E definitely looks a lot more interactive, which is nice. Rather than just if you're in range of me, you'll take damage, and otherwise not. So it's from a spammable spell to a much more interactive spell. But this will do a lot of damage, so just be wary of that. Yeah. All right, Malzahar. Malzahar got a new passive, Void Shift. Malzahar skirts the line between dimensions, activating Void Shift after avoiding direct damage for a period of time. During Void Shift, Malzahar takes heavily reduced damage and is immune to crowd control. Malzahar loses Void Shift 1 second after taking damage from a non-minion source or blocking crowd control effect. So, Void Shift damage reduction 90%, that's pretty huge actually. You can imagine, like, helps when Malzahar is running away, helps him actually get up in team fights and ult a priority target. Obviously, it's nothing too crazy because 1 second of blocking a spell, if people are playing smartly, they can just auto attack him or something, and then just wait out the passage to come back. Void Shift cooldown 23 to 6 seconds after taking direct damage. So obviously, late game it'll be back up more. It makes him stronger at sieging, blocking poke spells and things like that. In lane, takes a while to come back, so it's probably not going to be like something you'll be able to have up that often in lane phase. Call of the Void, 60 mana cost, it's pretty nice. Cooldown 6 seconds, nice. Reduced damage, okay. Slight decrease in AP ratio, that's honestly not that much. 0.5 second cast time. Delay after cast time. Okay, so I'm assuming the ability starts from the moment you just cast it now instead of before where it had like a slight delay. Okay. Honestly, this is just a overall buff. Like, the base damage reduction isn't even... It's pretty big, honestly, but it's... The early levels aren't that different, and then the AP ratio is pretty much the same. But it's a lower cooldown, less mana cost, which is really nice. W is completely changed. Void Swarm summons a Voidling. The first time a Voidling attacks a champion, large monster, epic monster, or assists in killing a unit, Malzahar spawns a new Voidling with the same remaining duration. When 3 or more Voidlings are active, they each gain 50% attack speed. 60 mana cost, 20 to 16 second cooldown, 450 range. I'm assuming this is the cast range and not the distance the Voidlings travel. 450 range is pretty far for being able to spawn these things. Voidling damage on hit. So 10, 15. It's pretty nice actually. I think that's similar to at least Spiderlings. I'm not 100% sure though. I'd have to double check that. But this is a pretty strong AP ratio. If you get like, I don't know, it's total AD plus an AP ratio. That's pretty strong. Voidlings deal triple damage to lane minions below 25% health. So they have an execute function in there. Voidlings deal 75% damage to monsters. I'm assuming that's to stop like the crazy level 3 or level 2 dragons that Malzahar was doing on PvE. Voidlings won't spawn if the current Voidling has less than 4 seconds left of the duration left. Okay. Voidlings prefer to attack targets afflicted by malefic visions or nether grasp, gaining 100% movement speed when moving towards them. Okay, so if you hit someone with E or R, they just get double movement speed. Voidlings no longer prefer to attack champions that Malzahar is basic attacked. Okay. So malefic vision just becomes your ulti just become your targeting tools. Otherwise, they just attack whatever. I mean, this gives him pretty good pushing power. Malzahar already had pretty good pushing power, honestly, with his old kit. Not so much early, but this early, now with this, your early pushing power will be a lot stronger, so that'll be interesting to see. I think Malzahar will still be good versus similar matchups he was good in versus before. He'll still be good versus assassins. Basically, any melee champion, Malzahar is just going to bully the crap out of them, like he always did. Malefic Visions, mana cost reduced overall, which is nice. Mana refunded on afflicted kill. 2% of maximum mana. Okay. I mean, early games is a nerf, late game is a buff. Damage, wow, the late game damage is off by a lot. Wow. That's a pretty big it's a pretty big nerf to the late game damage. And then 0.7 ability power, that's pretty much the same. It's not that big a deal. If an afflicted enemy is hit by Call of the Void or Nether Grasp, wow, this is actually very strong. So you can have Malefic Visions, I think it lasts 4 seconds currently, so if you time it properly, you can have it for almost 8 seconds on that guy. On just the same person. That's pretty strong, actually. Wow. Another grasp. Malzahar suppresses a champion for 2.5 seconds and creates a zone of negative energy around them that deals damage to all enemies inside the duration. Duration 5 seconds. Damage 6, 8, 10% of maximum health per second to all targets in the null zone. Ratio 1.5% of the target's maximum health per 100 ability power per second. Okay, so pretty standard AP build. You can get 800 AP. That's what? 3 times 4 is 12% bonus HP. 22% of the target's maximum health per second. That's kind of insane. I mean, obviously Malzahar is going to not be able to move or cast anything else, but this late game damage, he's still going to be really good at trading tanks with this. Obviously, it won't be as consistent because it's on his ult. But now that it's also instant cast, there's not even a cast time anymore. That's actually pretty strong. Yeah, Malzahar is looking pretty good, honestly. Like, he'll be tankier. There's certain, and it'll be easier for him to get to priority targets. And his wave clear is still good. His voidlings are going to do a lot more damage, I think. And then he has some early game nerfs, definitely. Like, it's not even that big though. It's still going to be pretty strong. All right, Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia is really interesting just because of this miasma spell. I think what makes this spell so strong and why it's probably going to need a nerf at some point is not what it does, but it's just the size of it. It's the fact that it can take up an entire lane and just stop an enemy from, I'm pretty sure it's flushing, slowing and grounding, preventing the use of movement abilities. I believe this includes flash as well. So the fact that it's that big and can stop all movement spells is pretty insane. Base movement speed, 335 to 328. Several of Cassiopeia's other base stats slightly adjusted. Okay, so whatever. Cassiopeia gains 4 movement speed per level. Cassiopeia cannot purchase boots items. So that's 72 bonus movement speed at level 18. That's really strong, actually. That's... what is that? 72 plus 400, exactly. Yeah. Q Noxious Blast. Mana cost is up early. Cooldown is lowered. Damage is buffed slightly late game. Ability power ratio increased heavily. Okay, so this mana cost increase is just to compensate for this damage increase. Cast range is reduced though. Okay. Overall, I'd say this is pretty strong buff. Like, if you get hit by it, you're still going to take a lot of damage. Movement speed buff, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50%, decaying over the duration. I think just having a higher burst of movement speed is better than having like a low consistent movement speed. So this is better. Slightly worse early, but better late. Cassiopeia spews venom in an arc in front of her, miasma, leaving toxic clouds for a few seconds. Enemies in the cloud are continually poisoned, slowing and grounding them, prohibiting the use of movement abilities. This ability will make her so strong against things like Yasuo. I don't know if Zed Shadow counts, because technically that's like a teleport, but since like Flash can't be used, I would guess that counts as well. This just means like she has a lot more like good matchups. Obviously she'll still struggle versus like really high range opponents, like Xerath will completely destroy her still. But yeah, versus like assassins, she's just gonna destroy them. 70 mana cost, long cooldown though, that's to make up for how powerful this ability is. 5-second duration. That's really long. Damage 20, 35, 50, 65, 80 per second. That's alright, honestly. For a damage over time spell, it's pretty strong. 0.15 ability power per second is pretty good. 40, 50, 60, 70, 80% slow, decaying over the duration. Range 550 to 800. So I'm assuming this goes up with ranks in the spell. And cloud radius 160. That's a really strong spell, honestly. It's really unique too, but I think this is one of the strongest spells in the game. that's on a basic ability with a pretty low cooldown. This might be the target of some nerfs in the future. Yet to see. But it just means Cassiopeia is... let me finish this and I'll give my thoughts on it. E Twin Fang, mana cost, increased early, reduced later, lowered cooldown. So it's just a flat 0.9 seconds now. Damage 52 to 120. Okay, so it scales for level. So this is just gonna be a 1 point ability then. You're not gonna max this until like the very end. Ratio 0.55, so 0.1. Okay, so I just want to keep it a spam ability. They don't want to give it too much power. No longer reduces the cooldown to 0.5 seconds. No longer refunds additional 1.5% of Cassiopeia's maximum mana on kill. Okay, but it still refunds the cost. Okay, that's nice actually. So you can still last it with it pretty well. If the target is poisoned. Okay, so they So they shifted the damage to the poison thing, not if the target's poisoned, not. They just didn't get rid of the static cooldown reduction. If the target is poison, Twin Fang. Okay, so this is to make up for the loss of the healing on the old passive. It's a pretty nice heal ratio actually. Put on ability power. They have 800. It's 80 heal. It's pretty nice. Considering that's on 1 second cooldown. I'm assuming that goes on a cooldown reduction still, so it can get to 0.5 or close. Yeah, I mean, this is an okay change. It's pretty much still going to be similar. It's a little bit less damage, obviously, against poison targets. But the base damage has gone up for that. If you combine this base damage with this base damage, the base damage will be higher. So, yeah, it's a pretty good. It's about the same. It just makes their non-poisoned damage a lot weaker. It's like almost nothing if it's not poisoned. So they have to be poisoned for Cassiopeia to do any damage. Petrifying Gaze, cooldown. Okay, same early, less late. It's good. Like game buff, slow. 40% targets facing away. Okay, so they just want to make Cassiopeia have more opportunities to use her ult, but at the same time, it's more punishing if she actually doesn't get the stun, because this 40% slow for an ulti is like not much. It still does. I'm pretty sure it does damage. I'm not 100% sure. I need to double check. My thoughts on Cassiopeia. I haven't played her too much even before. I used to play her a little bit. I think overall this is a pretty good change. It makes a lot of her mid lane matchups a lot easier for her, especially with the miasma. But it takes away her non-poison damage, so she can't trade at all if they're not poisoned. Then again, Cassiopeia never went hard for a trade anyway, unless they were poisoned. So, I mean, it's like not that big of a deal. Yeah, I think Cassiopeia is going to be pretty good too. I don't think any of these mages that they change are going to be like terrible. I think most of them are going to be pretty strong actually, and they might need some nerfs, but yeah. Zyra, base health 499, nice. This is really nice right here. Zyra, the fact that Zyra is immobile and is this slow is like terrible if you're a Zyra player, but they made it 340 movement speed, which is really nice. Base textures, whatever. Passive, Garden of Thorns. Seed spawners on Zyra periodically, becoming faster with level. If an enemy champion steps on a seed, it dies. If Zyra is hiding in a bush, seeds will not spawn until she reveals herself. Casting deadly spines or grasping roots near seeds causes them to grow into plants. Plants of the same type deal 50% less damage against the same target. Passive seed lifetime, 30 seconds. Wow, that actually lasts. It's a pretty long time considering. How often do they spawn? So it just says periodically, but I don't think it doesn't say. Unlike seeds spawned by rampant growth, seeds spawned by Garden of Thorns grant no vision passively or when stepped on. Okay, so that means you can clear these for free and you're not punished. That's good. Plant health 4, plant damage. I'm assuming these have. Okay, this is just the same plant damage ratios for all the plants created by any spell, even the ones by rampant growth. The rampant growth seeds just last longer. Okay, this is a nice change. So it increases the maximum plant health, which means like you can't just kill it in 2 autos, which is nice. Makes the plants tankier, and then it further enforces the you need to get out of this area or you're going to take a lot of damage feel that Zyra has. Q, Deadly Spines. Oh, they just changed it from Deadly Wound to Deadly Spines. Oh, it's like the wall thing now. It's like this thing. Alright. Cost 60 mana. It's nice. Makes it more spammable. Damage. This has gone down to compensate for the fact that it's AoE. And this has gone down to compensate for the fact that plants are supposed to be stronger. The reason why they reduced the plant damage is because she's going to have a lot more attacking one person at any given time. So they don't want to have Zyra to have the same plant damage she had before while also spawning more plants. That would just make her too strong. So it's good. It's a fairly even change. Not a big deal. Her all-ins are probably going to be a lot stronger if she just commits 100% with all her spells and the plants are just auto-attacking people. But her straight-up hook is just a little bit less. Grows plants slightly outside the area. Okay. I'm assuming Grasping Roots has not changed because it's not on here. Strangle Thorns no longer grants 50% attack speed. Plants enraged do 50% bonus damage. Okay. I mean, I feel like that's fine. Honestly, because you get Rylai's at some point on Zyra anyway, so people are going to be slowed. And having them do more damage should end up being more than having more attack speed. So, it seems fine. Zyra seems like she'll be pretty good. I'm not 100% sure again. Some of her mana costs her mana issues and her base stat issues got fixed. So, yeah, who knows? We'll see. She's definitely going to have a lot more damage. So, people have to be careful before they engage on Zyra. Brand, okay. This new passive looks really cool. Passive Blaze. You drop Blaze, stacks up to 3 times. Upon reaching maximum stacks, Blaze detonates in a large area on the target. So Blaze flat damage has gone down 2% from 8. So that means just his poke will be pretty weak without actually chaining his spells together. So good brand players will... This is like a buff to people that can actually land the spells, and it's a nerf to people that can't. So for a brand to do as much damage as you can, you have to be able to land your skills properly. Detonation damage, 12 to 16% of the target's maximum health. Okay, that's pretty insane. I don't know if this is as magic damage, or if this is as true damage. If it's as magic damage, it's alright. If it's true damage, that's just bonkers. Brand is just gonna delete multiple people in team fights. That's insane. It's gonna be like Victor levels, except he won't do it with 2 spells. He'll do it with 3. Detonation ratio 1.5. Yeah, okay. So this pass is pretty insane. Obviously, they wanted Brand to be like a team fight monster, where he just chains a couple spells together, and then if people aren't careful, they just get blown up. This definitely feels like that. I think they're going to have to reduce some of the damage on his abilities to compensate for this, because this is a lot of power right here. Having this much percent HP damage, that's AoE, no less. It can, multiple people that are hit by it can still get hit from each other's explosions, so that's really strong. Oh, just kidding. Just kidding. Okay, this is still really strong, though. Yeah. Q-Seer damage, early still the same, less late, and AP ratio down. Stun duration 1.5 seconds. Okay, this is to make Brand a little bit less punishing when he does combo things early, because having a 2-second stun on top of losing all this HP is pretty terrible. So less damage because of this, and the stun duration also down because of the passive buff. Pillar of Flame, cooldown 10 seconds to a scaling to 10, scaling down to 8. It's pretty nice late game. Have it up more often. This is Brand's bread and butter spell anyway. So being able to spam more is nice. Mana cost is reduced, which is really nice. 60 to 100 versus 70 to 110. So you max this anyway, but having 10 less mana is still very nice. Conflagration E. Less early, or rather, same early, less late. Again, to follow up with this, passive buff. You gotta take away power from somewhere. So AP ratio also down. The cooldown is nice. Cooldown is lowered though, which is nice. So Q is still gonna be your 1-point spell. W max first and E second. I don't think there's any cases where Brand chooses to max E instead of W, just because W is just much better wave clear. But yeah. Our Pyroclasm, damage 100, 200, 300, so 50 less at all ranks, and the ability power is lowered by half. Now prioritizes detonating blaze on champions. This means that Pyroclasm now prioritizes champions by default and prefers targets with 2, 1, or 0 stacks rather than 3 in an attempt to trigger a detonation. Wow, this is really powerful actually. So now your ult won't bounce on people that are already going to get hit by this. It'll bounce on the people that have yet to get hit by this. So they could still potentially blow up if they're not careful. So I think Brand is just going to fulfill a similar purpose to Rumble that Rumble used to when he was pretty popular, in that, like, if you have Brand on your team, you just have complete superiority in Dragon and Baron fights. Like, this damage is gonna be insane. The damage coming out of Brand, so he's going to be like the team fight mage to pick if you just want a 5-man all the time. Vel'Koz. I don't think the Vel'Koz changes were too big, other than that his ult gets does true damage if he's researching someone or something like that. Passive organic destruction. A little bit less early, way less late, but it has a 0.4 AP ratio, so late game this is probably a buff to the true damage that it does. The 0.4 AP ratio is pretty hefty too. That's honestly really strong. Like early it's going to definitely be stronger, and late is just going to be crazy strong. Q, Plasma Fission. Refunds 50% of its mana cost for each unit killed by Plasma Fission. Okay, this doesn't seem like much, but this is actually really ridiculous, because Vel'Koz's Q has has such a small mana cost, and it's really spammable. So the fact that it actually refunds mana too, up to a maximum of 150%, the fact that you can get more back if you hit 3 targets and kill them, that's really strong. That makes his mana sustain a lot better. Actually, that's really insane mana sustain that he really doesn't need, honestly. Like, he didn't have mana problems to begin with, so this is crazy. Void Rift, first hit ratio, 0.15, and second hit, 0.25. Okay, so this is just to reduce his wave clear. They want Plasma Fission to be his main priority tool to wave clear. This is still better for wave clear, honestly, just because you can hit the whole wave, but yeah, this is just taking away some excess power, I guess, to make up for this and this. Tectonic Disruption, 0.3 ability power. Again, this is to make up for the buffs here and here. Lifeform Disintegration Ray. Deconstructed champions become research for the next 7 seconds. The Lifeform Disintegration Ray deals true damage to research targets instead of measured damage. No longer applies stacks of organic destruction. So again, they want Vel'Koz just to be like, you combo your spells together and then get them researched, and then you just you disintegrate them with Lifeform Disintegration Ray. 500, 725, 950, just straight damage buffs, ratio, 1.0 ability power. Like, this guy's ult is just gonna rip people apart in teamfights. So he could probably honestly just straight up kill an AD carry with just his ult alone. Like, they don't even have to be deconstructed for him to kill them with this AP ratio and the base damages. That's pretty insane. Yeah, I mean, he'll just be even better at killing tanks too, so not much to say. He's still going to be squishy and immobile, so those are his weaknesses, but he has a lot of power if he's left unchecked, so Vel'Koz, definitely strong. It's going to be really strong. Minor image updates, Anivia, basic attack missile speed, slightly faster. It's nice, makes last hitting easier. Flash Frost, 60, 85, 110, 135, 160, from 60, 90, 120, 150, 180. So less early, or less late, more early. AP ratio less, but keep in mind it applies twice, so it's a 0.8 ability power versus 1.0 for 2 hits. And stun duration, scaling up, which is nice. It's really strong, actually. Having an extra 0.5 seconds is a pretty big deal. Slow 20, 30, 40%. Scaling with rank of R, Glacial Storm. Okay, so yeah, late game, this is just not much stronger than before. Frostbite. Wow, that's pretty fast missile speed update. That's a 33% increase in the speed of the spell. Cast range is 600 measured from Anivia's hitbox edge to her opponent's overall range buff of 35. Okay, so it's slightly longer. It's really strong, actually, because they also up the range of this. And really standard Anivia combo post 6 is you cast E and then you R for like 1 second just to get the chill proc, and then you get double damage on your Frostbite. So her range harass is just going to be even stronger. She still has really good wave clear. I don't think they reduced the damage of this at all. And losing just a little bit of damage isn't going to gut her wave clear that much when most of it comes from Glacial Storm. Oh, they made the radius tiny though. Wow. Okay. Okay, so Nivea has to be really careful with her placement then. Okay, that's a pretty fair change then. So they're increasing the cast range, but they're making the size of the actual circle much smaller. So Nivea is going to have to be careful. Scaling slow also increases the slow of Glacial Frost, or Flash Frost rather. Oh, and it expands to its previous range over 3 seconds. Okay. At maximum size, Global Storm's damage, chill duration, and slower increased by 50%. I see. So I guess they have this fantasy for Anivia where you put it down and then you keep trying to maneuver opponents into this area and keep them there with your wall and your Flash Frost, and just damage them with E. So her team fight's just going to be a lot stronger once this ramps up, and should be a lot safer by being able to use E from farther away, which is nice. Yeah, just pretty much Anivia buffs, honestly. Like, there's nothing really negative. It doesn't, like, not slowing attack speed is, like, it hurts her in certain matchups, but it's not too bad. Yeah. This Anivia is just better. Annie! Oh boy, okay. Let's count to 5. Pyromania stacks are not displayed under Annie's health bar. Okay, that's good. Makes it a lot more clear. So there's some certain Annie skins where the mark isn't really clear, and you could just get stunned without realizing that it was up. So this is nice. Incinerate range 560 to 625. Just straight up increase the range of W. Fix the bug where units will be hit if they escape the area after cast. So this is because it has a travel time. So if you're in the area Annie was casting it at, then even if you flashed out later, you'd still be stunned because it would hit you instantly, but the animation would reach you later. So that's a visual. It's a visual like clarity issue. Molten Shield. I don't know why they called it a bug. That's not really a bug. Molten Shield. Duration is cut in half. Okay. Damage on being basic attack. These just straight up buff the damage, okay? And they buff the damage return ratio, okay? No longer gives 10, 20, 50 armor MR, okay? But now gives 16, 22, 28, 34, and 40% damage reduction for the duration. Wow. Obviously this is for 2.5 seconds, so having this short duration of power is pretty strong, but this gives Annie a lot of safety against a lot of like her bad matchups. Like Annie's short range mage, so she struggles against high wave clear, high range champions. So things like Xerath, for example. Obviously Annie can like flash all in Xerath if he's not careful, but this makes it a lot harder for them to kill Annie because she can. I don't know the cooldown on this spell. I would imagine it's like 10-ish seconds normally, but having the damage reduction in clutch situations is pretty useful. Okay, no longer speeds up Tibbers. Okay, damage from Tibbers is straight up reduced. Ability power is reduced. Aura damage reduced. Okay, so this is to compensate for the other for the other buffs, in the other side. And they're also giving some more power to Tibbers, it looks like. Aura ratio reduced. Tibbers attack damage reduced. Tibbers attack ratio. Okay, so it's going to be less early, more later. Okay, Tibbers attack range buffed. Presence of mind. Tibbers AI has been improved to better follow Annie's commands and reduce cases where he suddenly stops doing anything. Annie can command Tibbers by follow her by selecting herself as Tibbers' target. Oh, that's pretty cool. While out of combat for at least 5 seconds, Tibbers gains movement speed when moving towards Annie and regenerates 6% of his maximum health every second. Steroids. Tibbers enrages on summon, ignoring unit collision and getting 270 bonus attack speed and 100% bonus movement speed. Okay. Using Pyromania on an enemy champion also causes Tibber to enrage. Pyromania is the stun. Okay. Okay. So with this change specifically, the ideal case is you have your fourth, like, what you do is you want to cast Tibbers at 3 because he'll be enraged on summon already, and then what you do is you cast 2 more spells when the enrage is about to wear off, because it decays over 3 seconds, right? So you cast Tibbers, he's enraged, he does a crap ton of damage, moves really fast, and then you cast 2 more spells to get your passive off, which stuns people, which then refreshes the enrage duration and buffs. So you'll have almost, wouldn't be exactly 6 seconds, probably more like 4 seconds because it decays, but you'd have a pretty long while of Tibbers just going ham and just mauling people if you chain it properly. If Annie dies while Tibbers is summoned, Tibber instantly regenerates 50% of his missing health and rages and targets Annie's killer. If Annie's killer is too far away, Tibbers will fuck. That's funny. Okay, so Tibbers is just going to go like suicide mode if you kill Annie during the summon. Okay. Okay, so basically it looks like Tibber's straight up burst is just reduced by a lot actually, but his consistent damage is up way more. So that means items like Rylai's are just going to be that much stronger on Annie, because anything that lets Tibbers stick to targets will make him hurt that much more. And that enforces that's kind of enforced with this, because you want to be walking around with your Tibbers near you to keep like refreshing the the enraged buff. You want to keep refreshing that. So having like this damage reduction tool to keep staying in the thick of fights is really nice. Okay, I kind of like this change to Annie. It makes it her, because her old play pattern was kind of hit level 6 just all in. This reduces her burst by a lot. It makes her a lot more like there's a lot more like opportunities to deal with her. Just be careful and like respect her damage, and also the fact that the stun is displayed. Okay, Fiddlesticks passive. Fiddlesticks gains dread after not moving for 1.5 seconds. Immobilizing crowd control resets his timer. Fiddlesticks has dread. Moving causes him to gain bonus movement speed. Duration 1.5 seconds. What's this all channel time? I'm pretty sure it's 1.5 seconds. Movement speed 25, 30, 35, 40%. Okay, so this is basically just to help him during his ult channel. Basically, you find a bush, you chill out, channel your ulti, and you'll have the movement speed as soon as you come. So you can use it to skirt around some CC or just get to the back line if they're running away faster and just CC them. Terrify range. This has been nerfed to compensate for this. Drain. That's a very short cooldown. Okay, but that's because the cooldown begins at the end of Drain's channel. Okay. That's pretty short though. Wow. Makes CDR less of a priority. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure the channel duration is if you can channel the entire thing is more. Number of masses 5 to 7. Now prioritizes drain targets. Wow, that's pretty nice actually. Nice, it's straight up buff. Cross normally cast in maximum range if out of range. Oh, that's nice. So it won't move Fiddlesticks to get into range anymore, which is really obnoxious before. Because before you'd have to do it exactly max range, otherwise Fiddlesticks would move and you could potentially go out of a bush or onto a ward, and then enemies might CC you. Now use On My Way ping. Stand here for death. Nice, okay. So, Fiddle 6 just got straight up buff. This is honestly not a big deal with the movement speed you're getting. So, looking good, looking good. It's still gonna have the same play pattern. Honestly, it's not that different. Nice. Cannon's marks have been updated. Okay. Mark duration, 6 seconds. First stun duration, 1.25 seconds. Reduced effect window, 2 seconds after last stun. Additional stuns, 0.5 seconds. I guess you can be technically stunned multiple times in a row by Kennen, through his ulti and then through his normal spells and the Mark of the Storm passive. So, yeah. Thundering Shuriken, just straight up energy cost buffs. That's just really nice. Electrical Surge is just got buffed. That's his point and click spell. If you have a mark on you, you'll just take damage. Just straight up buff. This makes Kennen just more energy efficient, so you can just spam more. It's only 5, but I mean, casting a lot, it adds up really. Range has been reduced though. It's fine. It's 50 range. It's not too bad. Slicing Maelstrom is no longer limited to striking the same target 3 times per cast, but only the first 3 strikes on a target will apply Mark of the Storm. Damage 80, 145, 210 plus 0.4. Okay, so this is unchanged. Damage fall off 25% per bolt to a minimum of 50% damage. Okay. Duration 3 seconds to all ranks. Tick rate 0.5 seconds. Max damage per target 354. Each tick now strikes every target in the... What? Wow. That's really strong actually. Kennen is going to be pretty strong after this change. So if I understand this correctly, any champion inside the area will get hit by Mark of the Storm up to potentially 3 times for this damage. You can just see the difference between the damage from before and after. Wow. That's pretty strong. Wow. Okay. So obviously this is the max damage per target. If it's a full channel 3 seconds, then chances are you won't be standing in there to get hit 6 times, but it is a potential. So, yeah. Basically his AoE damage will just be a lot higher. He's still going to stun people. It's honestly not that big of a change, just 0.5 seconds versus 0.6. So, he's still going to be really strong. He'll do damage to everyone in the circle, so his damage is a lot more consistent now, which is nice. And his laning phase is just a little bit better, coupled with that. So, yeah, Kennen's looking good. Just better than before. Slight, minor nerfs. Swain, basic attack missile speed. Ah, yes, this makes loss hitting much easier. Nice. Visuals, okay. Mana regen on flat mana regen on kill, 9 to 27 to 12 to 30. Okay, just straight up buff. Q, Decrepify Swain orders Beatrice to fly towards the center of the target area for short duration. While deployed, Beatrice will target the closest enemy, dealing damage per second and slowing it. Beatrice switches target if the current target leaves or is killed. Cooldown, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10. So this is before it used to just be a point and click spell that did damage over time while they were in a certain area, but I guess now it only targets the closest person. So it still slows, it still does damage per second, and it has an AP ratio per second to a potential of 1.2 AP ratio for the entire duration. But so the cast range is 700, Beatrice radius is 350. So it's a pretty short range actually. That and it deals 100% bonus, so it deals all damage to minions. So basically, this spell is just standard. You just go and harass the enemy, try to zone them off some CS. This makes it a lot better zoning tool than before, though, because before it would disappear if the enemy went out of range, but now it'll stay in the area, and if the enemy walks up to try and get CS, they still have the danger of getting attacked. So it's good. It's good. It's a good zoning tool. Never move. Just mana cost buffs. Really needed it. It's a spell that has pretty weak CC early, so but because you don't max this first anyway, it's I mean, you won't really be feeling it until later, and even then 20 mana by late game is not too bad, so it's just a little bit minor buff. E-Torment, 75, 115, 155, 195, 235, 250, 80, 110, 140, and 170. So flat damage nerf, AP ratio buff. So this is just to make the late game better or late game weaker. There's one Swain to be like the late game like drain monster, I guess, and reduces early game bullying potential. Damage amp is flat 20%. Okay. So he's still going to be pretty strong, but this will do similar damage, and it's going to be stronger late game. It'll be a slightly weaker early game, I imagine, but if Swain afflicts someone with Tormented Cripify, will prioritize that target. Wow. So then the way you'd play the laning phase with this is you send out Q, and then when they're slowed, and as they're about to leave the range, you throw a Decrepify on them, so that it'll be doing damage to them, and if they come back into the range of minions, then Decrepify will target them again. They'll take more damage. So, yeah. He'll have pretty good zoning potential, actually. I think he'll probably be really strong. He'll be a really strong lane bully, I would imagine. Ravenous Locks, Flame spawns Lesser Ravens every 2 seconds, or 0.2 seconds rather, dealing damage to targets around him. Lesser Ravens heal Swain upon returning to him, prioritize champions. Okay. Cooldown 8 to 10, so you can't swap forms as much. Mana cost 25 mana plus 5/6/7 additional mana per second. Wow, so it's just a straight late game buff. Like, if you have this out for 10 seconds, you're automatically saving 20 mana. It's actually a lot. Healing against minions is reduced, though, but you have more max ravens. Okay. Okay, so it's just to make him stronger in team fights versus champions, but reduces lane sustain, which is nice. Playing against champions that have a lot of innate lane sustain is pretty obnoxious because they're really hard to kill, and they also do a lot of damage, so they become... It's kind of... It's invisibly tanky because they're not building armor or MR to survive you, but because they're healing so much, they just don't take damage, so... Pecking immunity. Lesser Ravens can attack the same target for 1 second. Okay, so they have to constantly swap. Okay. So he's looking good. I think he's going to be a pretty good lane bully. Obviously, he'll still have pretty bad matchups versus high wave clear things, because his early game versus ranged champions is garbage, but versus melee champions, he's going to have he has these really strong zoning tools, so... Yeah, I don't know. With these champions, as far as competitive play, I don't know if it's enough. Like, Anivia has a niche and Kennen has a niche. I don't know if this is enough to put Swain with competitive. I don't really think it is, because he's still really abusable early game. If you have a jungler working with you, you can shut him down pretty easily, and then he's useless in team fights. Syndra, okay, this is going to be interesting. Dark Sphere bonus. Dark Sphere deals extra 15%. Dark Spheres deal 15% extra damage to champions. That is changed to Spheres last additional 2 seconds. Force of Will bonus. Force of Will's slow duration increased to 2 seconds. Now, Force of Will grabs up to 2 additional spheres within 400 range of the primary target, increasing the slow/damage zone on reactivation. Wow. Okay. So, dealing... This AP ratio change is very nice. Is pretty strong, actually. It makes her lane harass really powerful. Like, it's more than before. Like, obviously it won't be as much when you maxed it as it would have been before, but the main thing is it lasts another 2 seconds, and that works well with your ultimate, because now, for the last another 2 seconds, I think before the max amount of orbs you could have was 6, I think now you should be able to have 7 or something like that. 7 or 8 maybe, and that would just gives your ult a ton of extra damage. It's pretty strong, actually. So her early game is buffed, with her Q early game is better. Late game is a bit worse. Wait, actually, we got a 0.15 AP ratio increase. That's just straight up a 25% damage buff. So this is actually just better in all cases. Never mind. This is not even worse early or late. It's just better. Force of Will. Now displays the maximum throw radius while bending units to your will. So keep in mind, you can grab up to 2 additional spheres within that range. So you could have a pretty big, like, AoE slow. That's pretty strong. This gives her a lot of lane control, actually, and just teamfight control. Having such a powerful slow and ability to move your orbs around. And if, I don't know, I need to look, I would need to play with the kit a bit. And this got a straight down buff, straight up buff, so yeah, straight up early game buff. This is your 1 point spell, by the way. So having a 2 second cooldown, having it 2 seconds less is pretty big early game. That game obviously is the same. But yeah, Syndra's just straight up buffed. Syndra's going to be pretty strong, I think, actually, with these changes. She's going to have more burst. Her laning phase is going to be stronger. She's going to have more harass, more lane control with Force of Will, and more disengage with Scatter the Weak, or engage with Stun with Scatter the Weak. So yeah, Syndra just better, honestly. Veigar. Striking an enemy champion with an ability grants Veigar stacks with Phenomenal Evil. Phenomenal Evil gives Veigar 1 ability power per stack. What? Free AP for landing spells. I guess this is if you trade off farming a minion versus hitting a champion. I know Veigar support was almost a thing. It was like, I think it was like half a year ago almost, but getting AP just for harassing champions, like obviously this is not nearly as efficient as stacking in mid, but Veigar support might see some play. I mean his E is still really strong, so reward on kill guides to stack a Phenomenal Evil, grants 2 for large minions or monsters. But it no longer grants them for takedown. So they just still want him to have the late game point-and-click destruction fantasy. Straight up mana cost buffs makes the early game much better. W Dark Matter, mana cost buffs. Event Horizon, mana cost buffs. Primordial Burst. Execute damage. Wow. Wow, this execute damage. Wow, that's pretty crazy, actually. Yeah, I mean, Veigar's just going to be even better at just killing people, so you can't even stay in lane versus Veigar at, like, half HP anymore. He's just going to kill you. Like, with this base damage and execute, it's just crazy, so fear Veigar. I mean, fear Veigar before, fear him even more now. He's just got better. Victor, Q. Cooldown, straight up buffed. Missile damage buffed. Missile ratio buffed. Empowered auto attack. I'm guessing this is reduced to compensate. Yeah, it's less. It's just less late. And it scales off Victor's mana. Interesting. I don't know, because I know he gets mana from his hex score, but I don't know if with that it's enough to be less. I'd assume it's better early. No, it'd be worse early too. I'm assuming it'd be better later, but worse early. Shield ratio 0.15 AP. Okay, that's 0.05 ability power ratio. It's not too big. I mean, this just got straight up more damage and it's more spammable. So this just makes his late game just more safer, just way safer, and his early game just it's still pretty safe, honestly. Like having a shield to spam also does more damage. So. E, death ray damage, unchanged. AP ratio gutted, interesting. Augment damage, so just as a flat bonus damage now. So it's going to be less than before. Oh, okay, but the augment has a ratio now? No longer reduces detonation damage by 60% against targets already. Oh, okay. Ray plus aftershock damage is just more now. Alright, yeah. And laser speed increased. Augmented okay. Interesting. Okay, so they want the combination of the two. So they don't want Victor's death rate, because before what happened is Victor would farm up, he got a couple items after just full clearing waves with E, and then any squishies that just walked up to him would get QER to the face in just one shot. And with Thunderlords this season, I imagine that's just even more crazy. So what they want for the spell is they want it to do more damage, but obviously only if you chain the two together. So they're taking away some of the straight up upfront burst that he has. They want the delayed damage to be more a part of the spell than the initial damage. Our Chaos Storm duration 6 seconds. Initial damage is reduced entirely all across the board. Initial damage ratio is straight up reduced. Tick rate every 2 seconds. Storm damage. Okay, buffed. And storm ratio buffed. So max damage is straight, is higher. Okay. So what they want is they want this ability to do consistent damage and not just straight up upfront bursts. They want Victor to be about consistent damage and kiting. You can see that with the cooldown buffs here. This is his main form of kiting. This is just less upfront burst, more damage if both parts hit. This is more sustained damage. So they want Victor to be more about sustaining. Did you forget any schemes in motion? The ability to follow up with instant deletion puts the ball too far in his court. See, by shifting Victor's damage to be higher over time, we can hit 2 birds with 1 stone. So, they want Victor to play carefully around his opponents and kite them out, and scheme, I guess, to win favorable matchups. I like the changes to Victor. I think he'll still be pretty good. I don't know if it's enough for competitive play, but he should still be pretty alright. Xerath, Q, Arcana Pulse with decrease. Warning indicator now better matches the damage zone. Okay, that's fine. Playing against Xerath is sometimes annoying because the hitbox doesn't properly indicate where the bolt is, so you can still get hit just outside the range or just slightly next to it, even though you think you're out of the way. So this is nice. Shocking Orb. Less stun early, shorter, more stun farther. So they want to keep Xerath more about sniping people and keeping his range. They don't like that Xerath has a powerful stun for short range to deal with bad matchups. Like if a Zed gets on you, you could just stun him for almost a second and get away. Now it's much shorter. It's like 0.5 seconds is nothing. So Rite of the Arcane damage 190, 245, 300 to 200, 230, 260. So the early game damage is slightly buffed and the late game damage is nerfed, but you get 3, 4, 5 shots now. So obviously the late game potential damage is a lot higher. Range increased by 10% and impact radius 200. So this is buffed. Delay between shots is slightly more, and it now zooms out. Okay, that's nice. This is just a quality of life thing. It's not a big deal, because in some cases you'll probably still have to move your screen anyway to properly aim it. So yeah, it does less damage per shot, but more damage if you land multiple shots, so this just rewards good Xerath players. And it keeps his role as a long-range artillery mage, so it's good. I like it. This is interesting. Okay, so Ziggs, his passive just got straight up buffed by a lot, actually. 0.5 AP ratio, that's insane. Cooldown reduction after ability use 4, 5, 6 at levels 1, 7, 13. So they just want to make his passive more a part of his kit than before. Honestly, like late game, usually as Ziggs you don't auto attack too much unless enemies get in range of you, because you're not really like a super long range mage or anything like a Nivea is. I mean, while this gets your passive up more often, it doesn't change the fact that in teamfights maybe you would definitely use this passive more, but like in a siege situation you'd barely use it at all as it is. So if they really wanted to make it like a more core part of his kit, they would just give him like a little bit of a range increase on his next auto attack that has short fuse, and they could have that scale with level, so it's not oppressive in laning phase, but this is fine too. It just doesn't help as much as the range thing would have. Satchel Charge can now be used on turrets, not targets, below 25, 27.5, 30, 32.5, and 35% of their maximum health to instantly destroy them. This is insane, actually, for destroying turrets. Like, Ziggs is gonna have so much lane pressure. This might actually be enough to bring Ziggs back. into competitive play, just because lower cooldown on Inferno Bomb late game. So they want it to be more of a team fight spell, so you're not just using it to clear sideways. That's fine. But this right here is already like insanely strong. This just makes it so hard for the enemy team to siege, because Ziggs is already very good at clearing waves, but the fact that you have a turret execute spell now below 35% of its HP, that's crazy. So teams ought to be careful when sieging against Ziggs. Alright, that's pretty much it for the mage updates. I don't think there's anything else. Mage itemization. Tear of the Goddess refunds a portion of the mana spent. Mana regen is 0%, but now refunds 15% of the mana spent. That's pretty nice. Problem with tier before is you would buy it, and then to stack it up you'd have to spam it, which means you'd run out of mana really fast. Which means you'd end up having to go back a lot until you got to like a decent mana pool that you wouldn't have to go back after spamming spells. So this makes the item a lot more self-synergizing, which is just a straight-up item buff. Any tier user is just better off with this. Yeah, it's just better. You can also consider this to be spells cost 15% less mana, because you're getting 15% of that mana back anyway. So you can just call it that too. Catalyst of the Aeons, just renamed the Catalyst Protector. Lower cost is nice. 1100 gold. That's pretty nice. Unique passive, 15% of the damage taken from champions is gained as mana. Spending mana restores 20% of the mana spent as health. Spending mana restores 20% of the mana spent as health. Up to 15 per cast. So this is shifting power away from like the level up, just heal some HP. If it's properly using your spells to heal up, or taking damage to get a little bit of mana back. These two items are going to be pretty good together, honestly, because you get extra mana to spend, and then you can get that back as health. It's really nice. Up to 15 per health, though, so obviously not too like insane, but it's nice. Chalice now restores health or mana, whichever is a lower percent. Interesting. So 900 gold, it's cheaper, it's nice. Grants 100% base health regen for 5 seconds if your current health percentage is lower than your current mana percentage. Grants 100% base mana regen per 5 seconds if your current mana... Okay. That's interesting, actually. That actually gives it... It makes this interesting. So ideally, what you'd want is... you would want to keep your mana pool higher than your health pool as much as possible, so that you could take some trades and heal up, and then spend the mana, and then after, because your HP will be back to full, and then your mana regen will automatically regen back. Well, not automatically, but like you'll have more mana regen while your health is higher. So it's an interesting item. I'm not 100% sure about it, but it's interesting the way it functions. It's unique. Lost Chapter restores mana on level up. Cost 900 gold. Build path Amptome Sapphire Crystal plus 115 gold, 25 AP, 300 mana. Unique passive restores 20% of your maximum mana over 3 seconds upon leveling up. Okay, so this is similar to the old Catalyst, except it doesn't restore health, and it's not a percentage, because Catalyst is a flat amount, but this is a percentage. So it's interesting. This builds into Merlinomicon, I'm assuming. Yeah. What this really helps is champions that like to consume a lot of mana at one time. Like things like champions like LeBlanc or possibly Anivia that combo, or even Brand that combo a lot of their spells together. This item is really strong on them, because you get a burst of mana back every time you level up. So it's pretty nice. Yeah. And Fiendish Codex. Increased cost, increased combined cost, and AP increased. 100 gold for 5 AP. I don't know the price per AP, or like how much gold 1 AP is worth, but 100 gold for 5 AP is it's not that big a deal. It's alright. Moved Will of the Ancients, okay, this is they're going to do that. Rod of Ages, cheaper, which is nice. Calacion's Blasting Wants a similar build path, just different item name. Less combined cost than before. Less ability power, and less mana per stack. Okay, and then just a straight buff to the Catalyst passive. Interesting. So I'm assuming the stacking amount is still the same. That's the only thing they changed is the mana per stack. So the AP per stack is still the same. All right. So you'll only get 100 bonus mana versus 400 bonus mana, which is pretty big actually. For champions that like to stack tier and rod, but yeah, the power had to come from somewhere with this crazy sustain, so, and the buff, so. Okay, and it looks like Merlinomicon now has Athene's Unholy Grail's current unique passive, so price increase, it's fair. This is supposed to be like an epic item. I don't know the proper term for it, but it's supposed to be like a almost Zonya's or almost Death Cap tier item. Build path: Lost Chapter plus Fiendish Codex plus Amp Tome plus 665 gold. AP buff, okay. 20 more AP, that's really nice. 400 flat mana is pretty nice. No mana regen, and that's because of this. And 20% CDR is unique. Okay. Interesting. Okay, I'm assuming they're going to give the same thing to Athene's Unholy Grail. We'll see. Grievous wounds inflicted on enemies below 35% health. Okay. And, whoa, but the duration lasts 8 seconds. Okay, so this is a lot more punishing in extended fights versus lower HP enemies, but at the same time, sustained champions need to get to that point to actually get the Grievous wounds. So when they actually get there, they were punished a lot harder than they were before. So, I don't know. I don't think this is as good, though, because just having it at 40% for a shorter duration is better. Because they start healing or their healing is lowered at a higher threshold, so I don't know. Yeah, this is really nice though. This is a pretty big buff because already a lot of people build Morellos over Athenes, so this makes AP assassins and burst mages that much better. This item that much better on them. Athene's Unholy Grail heals allies based on damage recently dealt. No longer stores mana on killer assist. Okay. Mana regen 75%, ability power 40. Chelsea, I think they want to make this a support type item because it heals allies based on damage recently dealt. So, unique passive: 20% of pre-mitigation damage you deal to champions gained as blood charges, up to a cap of 100 to 250 at levels 1 through 18. Healing or shielding an ally consumes your current blood charges to heal that ally. That's interesting. So this is definitely a support type item. You'd get this probably on like Nami or Bard or like any like AP support like that. It's a clutch shield. The last second, you know. So, yeah, having an extra heal is always nice. Harmony grants 100 base health. Yeah, and this synergizes with this. So this gives it a really unique niche. It's an eye tank for you, take some damage, and gain these blood charges. And then I'll heal back up with this, and I'll save it later with this. So, interesting item. Now refunds 25% of the mana spent, and refunds 15% of the mana spent. So these items are a lot stronger than before, because once they're fully stacked, then they will be getting a lot more mana back than the flat regen gave them. So it's just buff to when you transform these items. So Abyssal Scepter Aura skills with level, it no longer affects minions. Now grants CDR. Okay. So the fact that it no longer affects minions makes Wave Clear worse. CDR helps compensate for that a little bit, but not that much. Being able to spam extra spells to make up for the lost damage. Ability power is less though, MR is more, so they just want this to be like a tanky AP item versus like something you build as a defensive option to deal with high burst mid laners. Well, they want to make it even more of a defensive option, less offensive. But so they're making it worse early, better later. 25. I mean, having 5 extra pen is not honestly that big, considering you lost this AP. The extra tankiness helps, and the extra CDR does help though. But this helps. This makes wave clearing a bit more difficult. So, is this a nerf overall? Kind of. I mean, it gives you more safety, but it's less offensive power. So, yeah. Zhonya's Hourglass. 3,500 to 2,900. This is sorely needed. Champions that need, like squishies that need to be able to deal with high burst or CC in team fights, had trouble getting this item because of its incredibly high combined cost and the fact that you get it later on, so you wouldn't have the item slots for it. Seeker's Arm Guard plus Fiendish Codex with 800 gold, less AP, but now you have CDR. And the cooldown on it is much higher actually, 120 seconds. So this punishes you a lot harder for misusing it, not using it properly rather, but CDR is very nice. It's actually not that bad as like third option, or third item. You might see it, third item. Extra Revolver no longer gives 12 hit, now it's bonus damage to basic attacks. Okay. Unique passive, damaging an enemy champion with, it's cheaper and it has a cheaper combined cost. It's very nice. Unique passive, damaging an enemy champion with basic attack shocks them for 75 to 150 at levels 1 through 18. Bonus magic. For bonus magic damage. 40-second cooldown shared with other Hextech items. That's pretty nice actually. Because it no longer grants spell vamp, actually a lot of champions would actually like the this item, or could build these potential items. Well, we can look at these in a sec. We'll look at these now. Hexic GLP 800. I don't even know. Like, I'll just call it the GLP, I guess. Total cost 3,000. Build path, Hexic Revolver plus Catalyst Aeons plus 850. Okay, so this is already you can tell this is just like supposed to be a tanky, some sort of tanky AP item. Ability power 80, health 300, mana 400. Okay, Eternity, we already saw that. Frostbolt, unique and active, fires a spray of icy bolts that explode, dealing 100 to 200 magic damage. Enemies hit are slowed by 65%, decaying over 0.5 seconds. 40-second cooldown shared with other Hextech items. Frostbolt ratio 0.35. That's actually a crazy, insane AP ratio for an active with such a short cooldown. The fact that it's AoE with a 100 to 200 damage base. This is already really strong early with the 100 base damage, and it has CC attached, and it has a pretty decent AP ratio. So you'll see this on a lot of AP champions, honestly. This would be pretty good with Malzahar to help them catch up to people. Just to name an example, this would be really pretty. I'd like kind of can't use this because he could use it, I guess. The mana's really wasted. But yeah, this is definitely strong for any type of mage that wants to get up in your face. Like Swain would love this item. Then again, people just might build Rylai's and then build this item. I think this is the item that like makes you dash forward and loses volley of firebolts. So people will probably just build Rylai's and then this item instead. Probably just better. Okay, 2,500 gold compared to this 3,000, so it's cheaper. Hextech Revolver plus Kindle Gem 650 versus Catalyst Aeon. So you lose the sustain that you get from Eternity, but instead you get a cheaper combined cost and an earlier spike rather. Same AP ratio. Unique active, dash forward and unleash a fire of Nova bolts that deal 755 to 150 magic damage. This would be really good on Lysandra. Helps you gap close that much better. Lysandra, Malzahar, Swain, Annie especially. Extra health makes you tankier. It's just really nice, honestly. Yeah, it's looking really. A lot of champions could use this. Hexagon Blade deals more damage and slows instantly. Total cost 3,400. Lightning Bolt unique active. Instantly deals 250 magic damage to target champion, slows them for 40% for 2 seconds. 40-second cooldown shot with their Hextech items. 0.3 AP ratio. Okay, and then I'm assuming it still has the Omnivamp passive where it just heals off everything like it did before. Ooh, it's getting long. Okay. So if it still has the Omnivamp passive, it's just straight up better. There's nothing bad about it. No bad changes. Yeah, I mean, anyone who built Hexagon Blade will still build it now, and it's just straight up better, so. Yeah. Buff for Akali, I guess. Elemental Dragons. So, dragons have been